Yes, sir. You heard it. That's Matt Forte. That's me with Sports Spectrum this Tuesday morning. Running back with my guy Jason Romano. And I got my dog on here, Jay Stu, my guy from '08 class, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Seems just like that. We was
Yeah.
rookies at the rookie premiere and at the combine and all this stuff. And man, like we are, I'm a
We
40-year
old.
old man with
We old.
kids in a old dusty trophy case,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
hey, I like to say it though. We had a really stout '08 draft class. We had some dogs at running back that came out that year.
Yeah. We had what? Darren McFadden, you, myself, Rashard Mendenhall,
Chris Johnson,
Chris
Ray
Johnson, Felix
Rice,
Jones,
Felix
Ray
Jones,
Rice,
yeah, Peyton Hillis.
Payne
You say,
Hillis, Tashard Choice,
yep.
man, Kevin Smith.
Esteban Cluster. That's a throwback.
Yeah.
We had a ton of guys,
We had a ton of guys.
But yeah, man, happy to have you on here. You're a part of the PAO family as well as we know. But, glad to have you on Tuesday morning running back to react to these championship games that just happened. Let's talk about the NFC Championship just now. The last game that was played. Me and Jason talked about this last week. Well, I don't know about his prediction. I know my prediction turned out well. It was Seattle going to the Super Bowl as well as the Patriots because I didn't think that Denver would be able to pull that off with a backup quarterback. But the defense for Seattle hung in there, and if we can talk about the game a little bit, it looked like it was going their way just immediately. Being up 31-20, then a little mistake happened with one of the DBs out there.
Yeah,
getting a
getting
little
all
too
mouthy.
yeah.
Get back to your sideline, man.
What you doing? What you doing? We trying to win the game. The game ain't
trying to
over
go
yet.
to the Super Bowl, or you trying to be about yourself right now, man? We know what these guys are about.
I did notice he went to Sean McVay right after the game ended and shook his hand. And I don't know if he apologized or he talked some smack to him again, but he did go over to him right after the game.
He probably apologized, and it looked like Sean was like, "Yeah, whatever, man, get out of here." Like, I don't want to hear no apology after a game. We not going to the Super Bowl no more.
Yeah, I ain't hear about that.
But actually, as we talk about faith and how it intersects with sports, that's a great lesson for our young athletes out there. Pride before destruction, or pride before the fall. So,
yeah.
If you got a fourth down play, y'all shut them down, and then you give them a first down, and then they go right at you the next play and score the touchdown. It's like, dude, humble yourself. It's like we got more stuff to play. Have you ever been in a position on the field like that where there was like instant karma almost?
Nah, I've always prided myself on being never too high, never too low. And I think as a running back, you kind of have to be that way anyways, because you holding on to the ball every play and you got guys up front that are blocking for you. So if you want to talk smack, you making it harder for the guys in front of you to keep the guys that are going after that ball off of you. So
yeah,
I've always managed just to, keep my mind in the game. Right. And what's the main thing? The main objective is for us to win, and you can only win as a team. And so when you start talking smack after plays and want to make this about you, unless you score a touchdown, like you need to head yourself back to the huddle or back to the sideline, man.
Yeah.
Lesson learned for those young boys.
Yeah. Celebrate with the team. That's what I always say. Like, football is the ultimate team sport. Like, it take everybody out there. And, when you draw an attention to yourself, really, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're not out there by yourself making the plays. You got to rely on everybody else doing their job at the same time. And that's how you get in trouble. That's how you get humble. But at the same time, too, like running back, I don't know. I just never was a big believer in trying to stun on somebody because things can quickly change when you run the ball like that.
You might run somebody over one time, but the next time somebody else gonna get you.
Yeah,
you're gonna get got. What Marshawn Lynch say?
Get got.
You're gonna get got, but I'm gonna get mine more than I get got though.
Yeah,
and that's the the back of the mind, right? You keep it in the back of your mind. I ain't gonna get got too many times, but
yeah,
I ain't gonna be out here going crazy and acting like I'm King Kong every time talking that smack, because you might get smacked back.
For real. But, speaking of running backs too, Kenneth Walker III for Seattle, had another solid game, but he's been making some plays throughout this postseason and pulling some things off. What's some of the things that you see in the backfield with Seattle? Obviously, they were missing one of their other Charbonnet, one of their the running backs, which Walker picked it up for both of them and was able to kind of carry the load and made plays when he needed to in the passing game too. What about his style do you like?
I like that he's capable of, running with that physical mindset. When he gets to the edges, especially with those DBs, getting to the secondary, which they do, every game they get an opportunity to get to the secondary, whether it's in the running game or whether it's in the passing game. It's good to see a back like that with explosion that wants to inflict pain. You know what I'm saying? He's not the biggest guy, but he runs like he's big, and that's what you love to see out of these running backs they're not like our size anymore. It seems like they kind of getting smaller, more shiftier, but they are so explosive to the point where they're just as much as a force to be reckoned with as a bowling ball a little bit. So it's good with him, being able to catch out of the backfield. Obviously, like yourself, you Army Swiss knife, you know what I'm saying? Like, not really sure how to defend a guy like that when he can be such a force in the passing game, the check downs, and getting out to the edge where you get those mismatches. I think that's what, Seattle's game plan was throughout the course of the game and throughout the course of the season. Really, they weren't necessarily the best run team, but that offensive coordinator did a great job of making sure he dialed in the runs. Because when you dial the runs in, the defense still has to support, you know what I'm saying? Because there is that opportunity where Walker or Charbonnet, when Charbonnet was healthy this year, they're capable of those explosive runs. And so I love what Seattle has to bring to the table. I think they, executed their game plan effectively this past game. And really the last 3 games, they've been, making it more of a run game, forward type of offense, and Sam Darnold just taking care of the ball.
Yeah, and speaking of, with us and, the size of difference, I guess, from our class and, being 225 to 230 range type of running backs, it is a different kind of running back game that you see in the league these years. But also we've seen the reemergence of the running game and how it has been not so much the cliche saying of, the passing league stuff, and that these teams, they pass the ball, but they have to have that established running game to help them out, which I think is what has allowed the growth and the reemergence or the resurgence of a Sam Darnold, to be going to the Super Bowl. A guy, I mean, look at the journey. I know he's going to have a heck of a testimony of how he's, a first round pick and hopped around in different places. And this just goes to show you too, the NFL is definitely highly about talent, but almost as equally about opportunity out there, because the system you may be in, the supporting cast, which in this Super Bowl matchup, I don't think there's really any real actual superstars on either team. There's the quarterback who's always the face of the franchise. Drake May had a wonderful, year this year, and he's an emerging superstar.
JSN is probably the closest, right?
JSN, I mean, you can say,
JSN
Stephon Diggs
like that.
on the other side.
He balled out.
Yeah. But JSN, I mean, I don't think he's ever covered. Right? I don't think he's ever not open, which, receivers love to say that, but I think this is for real with him. Like, he really liked that.
He's so good.
I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you're spot on though. With guys getting opportunities, it's almost erasing the old and bringing in the new, right? You're seeing Sam Darnold. He's been a guy that's hopped around the league for some time, and then, he gets a chance in Minnesota and takes full advantage of it and gets an opportunity in Seattle. And I'm pretty sure Minnesota is looking back at the decision to let him go and saying, we had a good thing and we just let it go, right?
Yeah.
And he gets to Seattle, and you get a guy that can manage a game, that can deliver the ball, that knows ball, that has been in different systems, that can speak different languages and articulate things in meetings. You know how those, like what we see on the field, there's so much more that's happening throughout that week when it comes to communicating. How are you communicating with the younger guys like JSN? And I look at Cooper Kupp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cooper Kupp being an addition to the Seattle Seahawks was another big find for them, because that made Cooper better, but it also made JSN a young guy coming up in this league. He's getting all the wisdom and all the craftiness from a guy like Cooper Kupp, as far as like, how do I get open and how do I stay open, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I think Sam Darnold really thrived this year, is having access to guys like that. And obviously the big tight end they have, and just being able to control the middle of the field at all times throughout the course of the game. The offensive coordinator can do whatever he wants to do. So the opportunities that has been presenting itself throughout this league, you're seeing the coaching changes. You're seeing, guys like Tomlin and Harbaugh, moving on with their coaching careers, and guys getting another chance to take a step in, and make a name for themselves. And so when you see that shift happening in this league, things are changing. I think even if you look at the running game and why it's so important, because it's the basics, right? If you can't run the ball, you can't move the chains, right? So, when you're relying heavily on the passing game, so many things have to go perfect every single time. And if you don't have a quarterback like the Rams do, a future Hall of Famer, you can bank on slinging it 35 times a game and come away unscathed. I think you look at the defensive line and how everybody's been trying to find that pass rusher and get to the quarterback, and that's been the name of the game for the last 10 years. I think now they're getting offensive linemen that are big enough and fast enough to make sure we control the edge. So now those wide zones, all those types of things are becoming a little bit more skeptical for defenses to stop. So you're starting to see a shift as far as how play calling is suggested, in my opinion.
Yeah, for real. And with the resurgence of the importance and the kind of the revelation of it, I guess, of how important a running back is in certain positions. And it's an interesting position that we held, right? Because we talk about opportunity, we talk about also the window of opportunity, where there's guys who can, like, let's look at Stidham. Like, he was a backup quarterback. Actually, I think his rookie year, he was under like a backup to Tom Brady. So he's been in the league for a while, and then like way down the road, you get an opportunity like this in a playoff game and an AFC Championship. Speaking of, switching towards the Denver Broncos Patriots matchup, and it's just I don't think that kind of necessarily happens when you're at running back. It's almost like when you get your opportunity, you kind of have to make the most of it, or now the next guy is like, coming in. So it does make it a little rough, and it does change positionally, I think. But what did you see in the AFC matchup that either surprised or kind of was straight on?
I went into that game thinking that the Denver Broncos would have a chance, and so I sided with that because it would have been more exciting, in my opinion. Seeing Stidham get a shot, that's a great story. And I also just watched the John Elway series on Netflix. So
really good.
I was kind of invested at that moment too, when I decided who I was cheering for. But that game, the weather was obviously a factor. I mean, the wind, the snow in your face. I mean, today it was snowing in Charlotte. It wasn't snowing that bad. And I'm over here thinking to myself, boy, if I had to play football in this, I don't know if I could. But I used to. but clearly I used to be used to because my mind is checked out. But watching that game, man, it was obviously very heavy with the snow, and guys were dropping passes, think routine catches, you know what I'm saying? And watching the AFC game with that snow, and then watching the NFC game in Seattle, where it probably is cold, but it's not snowing, you can see the differences in how the offenses were able to move down the field so effectively on both sides of the ball. I mean, this is the cream of the crop, right? This is the top of the top. This is, the guys, the best guys in the conference playing for an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. And so you watching AFC, and it's like, man, did y'all play football before? As a fan, you're sitting there thinking to yourself, how are they dropping these passes? But you don't really know what they're really experiencing unless you got that face mask on, right?
Yeah.
These guys are going through, a routine screen catch out of the backfield and can barely see the ball.
Yeah.
and never and mind that, not capable of seeing where everybody else is on the field that's trying to tear your head off. So I chalked that game up to the guys that, were able to do the extra bit, Drake May being able to scramble out of the pocket. I think he had that experience in the previous game where he had to use his legs to advance the ball. And I think he took that lesson and carried it over to this game, and it provided them an opportunity to win a close match.
Matt, I got to jump in because there's something I texted Matt this, Jonathan. So I got to ask you guys both about this scenario. First of all, teams have decided that field goals don't matter in certain situations, and it drives me nuts. And there's this moment in this first game, New England and Denver. Denver's up 7-0, and they are rolling. They have all the momentum. They get down there. It's 4th and 1. I think they're around the 18, 20-yard line, so it's pretty much a chip shot. It's before the snow starts. And Denver decides to go for it. And I didn't like the call, actually, on the 4th and 1. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, go for it. They rolled him out. It was a busted play from the start. But I said, take the field goal. You go up 10-0 there, and your defense is playing lights out, and you're home, and the momentum is all on you. Patriots get that ball back, and obviously there was that fumble that got them in a better position, and they end up scoring, tying the game, and it's 10-7, and they win. Well, what's going on with field goals? And it could have happened with the Rams. They could have gone for it late in their game and kicked a field goal instead of going for it on 4th and 6. And there were still 5 minutes left in the game where they could have gotten the ball back with 3 timeouts and gone down and won the game with a field goal. So I'm asking you both, Matt, I'll let you take it first, but like that moment, do you believe the Broncos should have kicked a field goal there, or were you fine with them going for it on 4th down?
I think absolutely. I mean, as I spoke about it. Matter of fact, we spoke about this last week. Hindsight is always 20/20.
We do it with the Bears. It feels like every week this year.
The Bears went for it early in the game on a first drive where you could get 3 points and you start off rolling. You're like, well, we got points on the board. They ended up losing by those points, and it's like, well, that would have been the margin that you needed at the end of the game to be ahead. And so when you look at getting points on the board early, they matter. And I understand the going for it on 4th down and the analytics and the stuff now, but they need to analyze what's been going on where they're like, okay, we're not taking 3 points, and it's coming back to bite them in the butt at the end of the game because it's continually happening. And I asked Jason, I asked you, I was like, did they not know the forecast? Like you got perfect weather right now. You're looking at, and it's in Denver. And I looked outside, and it was snowing, like the heaviest snow outside. It was like you could see, on the ground, like stacked up.
How many inches it snowed in Chicago?
Man, I think it was. I don't know, but when
close to a foot, right?
It was close to a foot. But when you look just outside on ledges, it was thick. It's stacked up. So it was snowing for a long time like that. And I'm looking at the game that's starting. I'm like, there's no flurries at all. I was like, man, this is okay.
But it was in the forecast, second half.
But it's in the forecast.
Yes.
So if you start the game and you're like, okay, we know at some point the snow's coming, and we got a clear field right now. Let's go ahead and take advantage of this right now. But so sometimes I don't know what that conversation was like on the headphones with Sean. I've seen and and played against Sean Payton, I've come to find out that there's sometimes when Sean has a decision, whatever he wants, if he's got his mind made up, that's what's going to happen. It don't matter what anything else is said. So, yeah, I mean, you can look back now, but I definitely would have tried to take the points in that situation with a clear field, because I think it was the first game since in the 90s or something like that 3+ field goals had been missed.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. Jonathan, what about you on this?
Yeah, I would have taken the points, man. Look, with that weather, you're not getting any better. You're not getting to the end zone. Like, you know, like that's my thought process. And, you know, as I was watching that game, I was thinking to myself, man, this Broncos defense is crazy. I love it. So just win the game with your defense. Sometimes you got to have that mindset. You can't be sitting back thinking to yourself, oh, I'm going to be the hero and save the day with these play calls on offense, and we're going to make sure that we, you know, are the face of the NFL here. No, be the face of the Super Bowl. You know, but I'm right there with y'all, man. You got to take the points in that scenario, because you have a backup quarterback in a situation too. You don't want to put that pressure on him. You know, even though he is a pro, right? There's no such thing as rookies. There's no such thing as, you know, a backup. You're a pro, and we get that. But a huge but here, he has not been playing football. He has not been throwing touchdowns. He has not been operating at a high level for you to be thinking, okay, we're going to go ahead and be aggressive here, because you don't know what you're going to get. You haven't been playing with this guy all year. So to me, you have to go for the points, especially when your running game has been not effective, right? You know, I would actually feel better, you know, about that decision if they, you know, going forward, knowing that their running game was something that they could lean on later on in the game to sustain drives. You know what I'm saying? Definitely miss some opportunity there.
All right.
Yeah.
So
but even though that you bring that part up too, I'm thinking about it's like the way that Denver's defense is. Like, you gotta, like, I'm gonna really lean on the defense because of that. Because I have a backup quarterback, and everything comes with, like you said, we know this. Hey man, yeah, you back up whatever, or you're a rookie with it. You're a pro. Like, you train and you prepare for this opportunity at the highest level. But there's a certain thing that makes a margin. It's called experience. He made on that one drive the nicest throws he probably made in his whole life. That deep ball, the first deep ball that was 50-something yard pass, perfect. Caught him in stride, everything. And then he rolls out, nice pass to Sutton in the end zone. And everybody's in Denver's like, oh, we're about to win this game. Weather comes in, right? But even with the fumble aspect that he had, in a guy in that situation multiple times, he's throwing that out of bounds. He's getting rid of it quicker than for it to actually, you know, be a fumble right there, or throws it in the dirt, takes the intentional ground, and you live to fight another day, punt the ball away, right? But instead you get that turnover, and that change that allowed them to score early when the weather was good. So I mean, you
short field position and everything, right? So yeah, you can't have those types of mistakes in these late season games, because they come to bite you, man. You got the turnover, you miss the opportunity to get some points on the board, and that ultimately is the game.
Yeah,
it's the game right there.
Early points.
There's also this situation in the Rams game. I want to ask you about this too. So there's 5 minutes left. It's, you know, the Rams decide to go for it on 4th and 6. Now the drive in the Rams game, 14 plays, 84 yards. 7 minutes and 24 seconds off the clock in the fourth quarter, and they come away with nothing. They go for it on 4th down. There's 5 minutes left. If they kick a field goal there, it's 31-30. They can give it back to the Seahawks. They have 3 timeouts left. Maybe they can get the ball back. The Seahawks, obviously, after that play, went 11 plays and pretty much sealed the game. It was just kind of, you know, semantics at the very end there with the Rams. In that moment, would you have kicked a field goal? Or would you have just done what McVay did and went for the touchdown at that point and try to win the game?
You know, that's a different call. I mean, obviously you're trying to win the game. You're trying to, it's a at that point in the game, it's fourth quarter. you're feeling hot with
Stafford.
with Stafford.
Yeah.
You know, he was hot, boy. That boy was out there, the drive after a while, like he was doing drive-bys. And and so he was really hitting. And so you kind of have to feel comfortable and confident with a guy like that, right? And so I understand why they did it, and it was because the momentum. And sometimes you, as a coach, you know, you live and die by, you know, your discernment. And I think, you know, he had the right to be able to make that call, based on how the game was going. But obviously hindsight, you know,
2020, you might kick the field goal. Yeah.
You know, you kick the field goal because then I look at it like pressure, right? You know, the game is all about pressure, and it's one side or the other. In that moment, you go 30-31. Now you're putting the pressure on their defense or their offense and saying, okay, they are only a field goal away from beating us, not a touchdown, right? So now you play a little different. You play a little scared. Defense might start calling things real soft and making it, or they might get, you know, a little risky to keep you out of field goal range, right? So there's just a lot of things that I think that mount up when you do make those calls to go for the 3 points, because it still is a part of the game, and it is part of the course of how, you know, coaches make decisions.
Yeah, I think coaches' consciences sometimes their conscience gets the best of them, like their second thought, because no coach wants to stifle momentum. So the way Stafford is, you know, it's almost like they play a little slower in the first half, and then they come out and Sean McVay figures out something, and they start making moves, and he starts carving them up, and they're working their way down the field, and he's probably thinking to himself, if I kick a field goal with this momentum that we have, and I know, you know, Stafford is doing well right now, he would feel worse if I guess he missed that opportunity on the 4th down to get the 7 points.
Yeah.
But they're not thinking about, okay, if you don't get it, then it's a wrap pretty much. But, you know, that's
what makes a coach like that really good, though, and respect it. You know, as a player, you respect that, because it's basically saying, hey, that's what Ron Rivera did with us a lot. You know, he had Cam Newton, and Riverboat Ron is what they used to call him. And he'd be like, yo, look, 4th and 1, y'all got to go get that. Okay, go get it. I'm depending on you. And it's a good feeling when your coach trusts you in a situation like that, and it comes out to be rewarding. But, you know, that's why Sean McVay is who he is. You know, his coaching tree goes out the window. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got a good list of guys that have been brought up underneath him. So, you know, you don't really necessarily question every single thing that he does. I honestly understood it. I think there shouldn't be any recourse of action as far as why.
Yeah, I've played with
Stafford back there.
I've played with coordinators and coaches who they'll put you in that position to say, hey, it's matchups. You got to win your matchup. And he's like, if you don't win it, then we don't deserve to win. And it's like, all right, well, if you put it like that, it like kind of fires you up to like, we gotta make this happen. And if we don't, then you can't be mad and have the regrets about it. Hey, you went all out, you know, unless you just kind of literally drop the ball in that situation.
And that's how you talk about development, right? You know, guys develop in those situations. You know, I like watching you, Matt. Like, I used to love watching your film, because you would be in situations where you would have one-on-one matchups with linebackers, and clearly it was a play designed in that point in that game where you probably had, you know, 5 receptions, right? Check downs here and there, but then they'll give you a wheel route or a bullet route, whatever you want to call it. And that would be a one-on-one, and you had to make the play.
Yep.
And what that does to a player, it gets them to another level. You know what I'm saying? It's like unlocking the next level, right? And so, you know, I think people that, you know, shame coaches for, you know, being aggressive in certain situations, you know, you don't really understand how they tick. You don't understand how that team ticks. You don't understand the level of trust that's in that locker room either. So I think there's more that can be, taken from those experiences, especially when they go right. But if you have the right coaching staff, you have the right locker room, there can still be a learning process in that as well when it doesn't, when it goes wrong.
You think about it, it's like the highest competition level, and that doesn't breed like conservatism, really.
Mm-hmm.
It breeds kind of that aggressive play calling type of mentality that your players are going to play with. So if I'm coaching too, I probably have that mentality as well. It's like, I'd rather go down like this than like this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather go down gunning
especially
for
fourth
it.
quarter.
Yeah,
Especially fourth quarter. Like,
because then
like,
you're always going to question what if,
Yeah. And that's the big difference, Jason, between the AFC game situation and this NFC game.
Sure.
Like early in the game, late in the game. Early in the game, we still got room to make a difference, right? Late in the game, it's either now or we don't know when we're gonna get the ball back. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
you got to you can't leave anything on the shelf. Like you got to do what you got to do to go for the W. I get it. I think I'm older than you guys. And I remember way back when the Giants upset the 49ers in, I think it was 1990 or 91. And they won 15-13 and they kicked 5 field goals. They didn't even score a touchdown. And then they won the famous game against the Bills when they missed the field goal wide right. But in that NFC Championship game, they kicked field goals late in the fourth and relied on their defense to stop, got the ball back, and then kicked field goals to win it. And that's what I kept thinking going through it, was like, if they kick the field goal, it's not actually a bad thing because they cut it to 1 with 5 minutes to go with 3 timeouts and they could get that ball back. But I hear what you're saying. At that point, you're probably that close. You're going for the touchdown. You're going for the lead because you don't want to have regrets there either. So I get it.
Yeah.
Guys is out here playing like Madden, but
that's right. That's right.
So between the two of us, only one of us, well, between the three of us, only one of us has Super Bowl preparation week experience. I got to the NFC Championship. You guys went and played in the Super Bowl. Give us a little, just, walk us into that. What is that week like? What is the preparation like? How did you manage the distractions with, because family, everybody is, hey man, Jay Stu, you made it to the Super Bowl. Like, let me get tickets, let me go support you, all this stuff, and and then you got your wife and your kids and stuff, and you like don't want to throw that on them as well as all the festivities of the week. It's kind of a weird place to be. Like, how do I take all of this in but not be too distracted or kind of not focused when the game time comes?
Yeah, man. I think it was having the right people around you that understood the assignment. And I'm a very blunt person. And so when we went to the Super Bowl, I told my
Y'all
mama,
ain't getting tickets.
I told my brother, and I said, Mom, you can get my auntie and maybe my uncle Spoke. And that's about it, right?
You got 2.
That's it. And then so I put in the group chat, you know what I'm saying? Like, with my friends, I'm like, hey, fellas, y'all going to the Super Bowl, y'all got to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Because the main thing is for me to be fresh mentally, and all that, right? And that's kind of how I always operated just with regular season anyway. So, and I have a small family, so I wasn't a guy that had, my aunties and my uncles, my nephews, nieces, all that kind of stuff. I didn't have that going on like a lot of my other teammates. You have that 1 week off where it's, you back in the building, kind of like still in shock of, wow, I'm going to the Super Bowl. And then there's moments where you're just like, man, why am I not excited? But then there's moments where you're like, wow, I'm going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of that, and until you're reminded, until you see something on TV or on a shirt that says Super Bowl, and it's a reminder like, oh yeah, we got this coming up. And to be honest, man, it was such a long time just sitting and waiting around.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it. When we got to San Jose, because that's where we stood at, or that's where we stayed at, and that's where we had our practices. It was a whole long week of just us being out of the way, didn't see a Super Bowl sign, didn't see fans, didn't see nothing. So the energy for us was just like a regular day in Charlotte but the difference is I don't get to sleep in my own bed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? So it, like, hindsight going back, man, I wish we would have been able to like really make that whole week a real moment and cherish it like it wasn't a regular week. Because it wasn't a regular week. It was the Super Bowl week. And I think sometimes we get so nervous and we try to dumb things down and not get too, elevated about, the opportunities that we have, that we miss the mark. And part of that mark is the journey. It is that Monday. It is that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like, yo, we're here. Let's make this an experience a little bit, right? And be responsible about it. But but our preparation, we were going through our plays, little wrinkles here and there, making sure that we're still going to be fresh for the game and whatnot. I know a lot of guys probably gained about a couple pounds.
Yep.
Being out there in San Francisco trying new food. But I just look back at that experience and it was magical for sure. But definitely missed the mark, clearly, since we lost.
No, and I mean, it's you can imagine the emotional roller coaster, as you were saying. Like, even thinking about it, your body doesn't even know how to handle it because you haven't been there before.
Yeah.
Unless you're Tom Brady, you already know how these things go because or you on the Patriots because you've just been there year after year after year. Or kind of like the most recently the Chiefs, who had been every other year or every year in the
5 out of
5
6
years, something like that.
Yeah.
But
what's the guy's name that just climbed that building?
I don't know, the guy that was on Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name, but that was nuts.
I actually gave an analogy one time to someone about the Super Bowl itself. It's like you train and you prep and you do all this work to climb a mountain, and you finally get to the top of the mountain, and you're like, man, I got all the tools that I had got me here. But then you realize there's a peak. It's like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for that. I don't even have the tools to get up there. And that's really what it felt like, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting all the way there and then just realizing, hey, I left my tools to get up there at the house. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody did. And, and so it was like a very, very, very like woke moment. But just like you just fall, man. And it took some time to really get over, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm still actually not over it, but I'm just better at having gratitude about the experience. Because that helps me get over it. So but yeah, that's one way I can explain the Super Bowl experience, is like getting all the way to the top of the mountain, realizing that there's a peak on there. And the Denver Broncos is just up there just having a good old time climbing up the rest of the mountain.
Alex Hanold was his name, by the way. Alex Hanold.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. And that's how God works, because that transitions perfectly into what I learned at church as well. But a little bit, it kind of is a great analogy of not just on the losing side of maybe a Super Bowl, but the winning side as well, because there's a book that was written by a guy who climbed Mount Everest, and it was the same analogy. Like, he struggled and had, you got to go up so high and then come back down to get acclimated to the the air. And so you like do all this work and it's freezing cold, and then he gets to the peak, but he only had enough, because it's so cold, he only had enough time to snap a little Polaroid, because your regular digital camera would freeze. All he had was enough time to snap a little and go back down. And that was it. It was like this amazing achievement, but it was almost like still a little emptiness that was there.
Yeah.
And I've heard it to be said that a lot of people who have won the Super Bowl and have been like, man, it's amazing. And then they were like, but I still feel this like emptiness, this unfulfillment, which is something that's spiritual. It's obviously something that's spiritual that we're talking about. Man, I guess I'll transition into what I learned at church.
That's crazy that that's exactly how it felt. But also too, you're talking about, there's a lot of reasons why guys play this game, right? And I think if your reasoning isn't built alongside your faith as a foundation, that's where you really get lost. That's where you find guys really hitting the dark path, right? With no exit near in sight. I played the game because I wanted to see how good I can get. Period. Right? That was the Jonathan Stewart way, which was, I just want to see how good I can get. So I'm going to train to see how good I can get. And once I realize I can't get any better than this, it's going to be over. Right? And, the God side of that is, as long as God gives me the ability and strength and the passion to do so, I'm all in. But the moment that I feel myself teeter, like I have to have the wisdom and the discernment to know when it's time. When it's time, it's time. Don't just be out there chasing stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge component to like what you're talking about, guys feeling empty. Once you really, work for, you get to where you have worked all your life and realize, wait, there's more to this. And hopefully when you get that question, there's more to this. Hopefully you stick around to figure out what that is.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'm glad you said that, because I think from now on, I'm going to ask all of our peers, our young, professional athletes in any sport that I may come in contact with, but also young people that are out of sports, maybe they're professionals in something else, or whatever it is they do, is why do you do what you do? Like, be honest with me. Why is it that you do, and why are you doing what you do? Because that's going to really dictate this next decade beyond. Like, you're going to figure some things out, because my path was a little different. Like, why did I start to play? Why did I want to play professional football? I don't know. It was just something that the first thing when I woke up, I was like, I know how to do this. You put the ball in my hands, I know I'm good at it, so I'm going to keep doing it. And then it became where I was like, yeah, I want to see how good I can get as well. And then it morphed into, man, I met a lot of dudes that go to PAO. I'm watching their lives. I'm watching how they've built a life to give God the glory. How much glory can I give God while being good at this? Using what he's given me to do it. And then God is so good to where he'll show you, even something that's good, you'll have to let it go. And I'm sitting here like, man, football is really, really good. It's been really good to me. And it's the only thing I wanted to ever do. But he gave me so much of it. That's God's grace. I don't deserve it at all. But he gave me so much of it that I was like, I'm full. Yeah. I can leave the game right now and be like, I'm good with not playing ball. And everybody doesn't get to do that. So I was just wanted to bring it up, because I was gracious that I was like, man, you know what? 10 years, that's good enough. I don't have to deal with the pain anymore if I don't want to. I actually want to raise my kids and run around with them and be able to not be in a lot of pain and be like, I can't bend down, or, as you get older, because you gain, if you don't move like you used to, you're going to take a lot more shots. And then the shots don't heal up like they used to. So, that was like my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right you hit the nail on the head. Because a lot of what you said was just like the transition. It's the development. It's the development of, our wisdom in God, right? Like, our relationship with God grows as we grow. And when you get the opportunity, man, like like one of the things that I've been thinking about all week was Ecclesiastes, King Solomon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that our preacher has been preaching about at our church, and it's this real introduction to life, and it's not fun. You know what I'm saying? It's this realization of like, well, that's meaningless.
Yeah,
Life,
it's all vanity,
bro.
Solomon says all vanity,
fleeting.
This life is meaningless if it ain't about God. And like, and how we ought to be living this life, it should be as if we were to be forgotten, almost. You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to be forgotten, but the only one that's not going to be forgotten is Jesus. So we should be uplifting his name and everything that we do, seeing how good we can get at uplifting his name. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like if you thinking about it, you want to be a competitor, like compete in that and compete in your platform and figure out creative ways and how you can, be a light. You know what I'm saying? Like and that's where I'm at in my life right now, Matt, and Jay. It's all about, because I'm a creative in my mind, right? Like that's just, have my passion. And so for me, it's like, how can I be a light for others with my platform? And hindsight, it's like looking back, it's like, man, I could have done a lot if I would have known about this social media stuff back when I was playing all kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But, you be where your feet are. And the book of Ecclesiastes really sets the tone as far as our life on earth is good because God is good.
Yeah.
And if you can rest your soul on that and not let the world beat you up over what you haven't done, what you haven't accomplished, what you don't have, you'll be in better spirits with this blessing of life, because you'll have a little bit more, just more, your conscience ain't, all over the place. And that I feel like a lot of people right now with all the distractions, our conscience is being, attacked. You know what I'm saying? Like if you only have the Holy Spirit right now, it's kind of hard to see what things look like without the blinders on.
Yeah, that's so true, man. And that's why we have to be, I guess our goal has to, or should be known for who we are, not what you do. Because what you do is going to end, but who you are is who you are. And who we're trying to be. Obviously, if you are geared towards a Christ-like lifestyle, we're trying to be Christ-like and to be known for generosity and for grace, mercy, and truth and loving kindness. Like, that's not even a real word. They had to make up a word to actually identify Jesus. So that is so important. So let me go quickly with what I learned at church. We went to Romans 8:1-8, which is right after Stephen is the first martyr in the Bible that we get, that is recorded. But that's when Saul, who later on becomes Paul and writes all the epistles, writes a heavy part of the New Testament, which is crazy because he was persecuting Christians. But Acts chapter 8:1-8, and you guys, if you're listening, you can read it on your own and go through that. But the sermon title was the end of our sermon series. Is a pastor that works with Reverend Dr. Charlie Dace at Salem. His name is Sean Marshall, but he called it giving up the past for good, because the whole sermon series has been giving it up for good. The double entendre of you giving up something negative for something good, but also giving up something negative for good to get rid of it. And giving up the past for good was deep. It was a deep sermon because, man, he was talking about how it's not a bad thing to reminisce. But when you have the past, no one teaches you how to grieve the past. And he was like, when you reminisce too long, you start to romanticize the past. When you romanticize the past, you start to reach for the past. And when you reach for the past, that's when you get in a wreck, because if you're looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to run into what's in front of you every time. And the grief part of it is like nobody teaches you these things. Like there's no class, no lesson, no focus group that really people go through. It's like a lot of help that you can get counseling on with grief counseling, things like that. But you kind of just get thrown into life with that part. And depending on the way your life goes and the life path at a young age, like some of these things can be overwhelming. You don't know, you know what to do. You're not mature enough to really know how to grieve something. And the past, if not dealt with, it will resurface, because you're literally just looking back and then recirculating what you're looking at in the past, and you're just recreating it in the future. That's why you see generational curses or cycles of alcoholism or infidelity, or you see cycles of drug abuse, you know, these things that may have been other people, but within your bloodline or your generation or your family, and then they just recycle themselves because the past trauma or the past whatever it may be has not been dealt with properly. And man, he was just saying how it's in everybody, and there's biblical accounts of these things. If you talk about the Israelites, man, they wandered around in the desert for 40 years. We should have just went back to Egypt, where they was beating you over your head and you had to make bricks without straw. So just because the manna wasn't on time, like you thought it should be on time, you want to go back into enslavement. Like, but that's how we think if we live without our eyes focused on what God is and having the faith to trust him. I was reading, which I read a lot of stuff on wisdom, because I think we can never have enough of that, because it's just God is the one who imparts wisdom. I heard it said that wisdom is like having a Jolly Rancher. You can't just bite on it. You're going to break your teeth off. Now, if you really want wisdom, that thing got to marinate, right? So, and it was talking about the difference between the belief in God and the actual trust. And it's like people can believe in God but still trust in their own idols. So you can say, man, I believe in Jesus, I believe in God and all that, but then you don't have faith to trust them in financial situations, or you don't have faith to trust them with maybe in a relationship or something like that you have with another person. But man, it's just some of these things that we do, we say we believe in God, but yet the trust part is not there, because we still want this control aspect of our life. So we look back on the past because it's comfortable, or sometimes we go back to that the old past because we won't trust God for the future. And my last point, which is really good, is Sean Marshall also said, Reverend Sean Marshall said that some of our biggest hindrances towards God's blessing, a bigger blessing in the future, is the blessing that he already gave you. And what he means by that is that we act like my little 4-year-old daughter, who when I go to put her to bed and I pick her up and like throw her on the bed or toss her, she say, do it again. Do it again. Do it, like constantly, and it never ends. So when God blesses us one time, we say, do it. Oh, that was nice, God. Do it again. And he's like, no, like you enjoy that, but if you would just trust me, I got something bigger and greater for you. But we like, but I want that. I want what you did, the last time. And he's literally telling us, just, I got something bigger and greater, but you got to trust me. And it's a hard thing to do. I'm not going to make light of it and act like it's easy. It is hard to do.
Yeah, man, that's so good. Everything that you just said, because I really just kind of like the seasons of life that we are blessed to experience, right? At some point you either learn and grow or you don't. You know what I'm saying? And I think the sooner that we are obedient to what God is always trying to tell us, which is just to trust him, like, trust me. do as I say, and you'll be all right. Like things aren't gonna be sugar, like cookie. It ain't gonna be cookie cutter all the time. It's not gonna be sweet all the time, but you're good, right? Like it's not this life because of sin isn't just gonna be roses.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's things that have been already paid for through the blood of Jesus, but there's still things that have to happen while you're here on earth. Souls have to be saved because there's someone out there trying to gather this other souls. You know what I'm saying? Like Satan is there to kill, steal, and destroy. So if our mindset is to cling on to what's comfortable and not be capable or willing to trust and grow in God, like we are only just prolonging our experience. We're prolonging the feeling of peace, right? You know, we especially for men, like I'm in this in this moment in time where I'm just like, man, look, I just want peace, right? That's all I want. I don't want happiness. Happiness is fraud, right? I don't want that. But like peace, and you find peace, man, when you are walking with God and trusting in God. And what that does too for, you know, for the married men out there, you know, your household operates with a whole different efficiency. Like your spouse, they trust your leadership. They trust where you're going. And the encouragement that outpours from your spouse when they feel led, you know what I'm saying? So there's so much, man, that you just said there that impacts, because you have to trust God.
Yeah.
You have to.
So
yeah,
good.
especially, you know, in times like this. And I bring this up too, just to close us out, because I don't ever want to be tone deaf in situations where we're just talking sports and faith and not realizing what's going on in the world right now. And, you know, literally this past week, people are losing their lives in the streets. And it's almost like I'm trying to go back to the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus is telling us the difference how Christians should act between the world, and how you love your neighbor as you love yourself. And how it doesn't say, it used to say, you know, Jesus said, it says it has been said that you should love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But he's like, nah, I'll do you one better. Love your enemy.
Yeah.
And in our culture right now, everybody's hating on everybody, and it's picking sides, and the enemy is winning because of the divisional part. You know, once and it ties back to the sermon that I heard at church on Sunday, and the grief part, but the growing comes after that. Like if you're going to stay on grieve if you don't grow. So you got to grieve, but you got to grow, and then you got to go. Because if we look back, I
say
mean,
that again. Say that one more time.
You gotta.
There's people in the back that need to hear that, Matt.
Yeah,
say that one more time.
You gotta grieve, and then you gotta grow, and then go, and then go. Because I mean, it's just, that's the whole process of getting to where God is trying to bring you, and where you need to go. But also, I mean, if we look back, we just celebrated Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, and you know, this is 1968, where his life is taken off of a balcony. Not much has changed if we really, really look at it. And so it's like really important that, man, at times like this, like unity within the faith community is very, very important. It makes us look like fools when we point the finger, and those Christians don't really believe the Bible, and these Christians, they are heretical and this and that. It's like, man, they shall be known by their fruit. They shall be known by their love.
Yes.
My disciples. It's clear as day. It's like no denomination, no, you know, whatever you may do, your service or whatever, how you show your love is how you should be known. So those are just something that was on my heart to bring up, because, you know, I don't ever want to be, you know, I have someone who's listening and be like, man, y'all tone deaf. Y'all not listening to what's really going on in the world.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good.
Jonathan, you didn't know you were joining a show with Reverend Pastor Matt Forte, did you?
No, I did, man. I listened to a couple episodes, man. So I've been encouraged by by Reverend Forte, brother.
Nah, me and Stu go way back. We were in growth groups together and all that good stuff, draft class, everything.
Love that.
But Jay Stu, man, we appreciate your time. We took a lot of your time today. It's one of the longer podcasts, but we appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you guys.
We appreciate having you on, bro.